The galaxy was quiet. Stars burned in silence, and a massive human hospital ship drifted peacefully above a blue and green world. Its hull was white, with huge glowing red crosses painted across the side. Inside, doctors moved through shining corridors, and children's laughter echoed faintly from the civilian wards. This ship was not a weapon. It carried no cannons, no missiles, no soldiers. It carried only the sick, the wounded, and those fleeing war. It was a promise and ancient oath that no matter how far humanity went among the stars, mercy would follow, but mercy could not stop plasma fire. Without warning, the night sky erupted. Alien warships slid out of the void, sleek black shapes with red engines burning like angry eyes. In seconds, lances of blue plasma cut across space, slamming into the hospital ship. Explosions rippled along its side. Hull plating shattered. People screamed, "Shields are failing." A human officer shouted, his voice shaking with disbelief, "This is a medical vessel. We are unarmed." No reply came. The aliens kept firing. The corridors filled with smoke and rushing air. Nurses tried to shield children as gravity shifted. Flames rolled through one section of the ship, and alarms screamed louder than the voices of the dying. On the bridge, Captain Elena Voss stared at the glowing tactical screen. Her eyes widened in horror as she realized the truth. The attackers were not pirates. They were not desperate raiders. They were organized warships, flying the proud banners of a galactic empire. They knew, she whispered. They knew what we were, and they didn't care. Her hands shook as she opened the emergency beacon. Across space, a signal burst outward. Humanity's mercy ship under attack. Coordinates locked. We are unarmed. We are dying. The beacon repeated again and again. One young officer turned to her, his face pale. "Captain, Earth will hear this, won't they?" Captain Voss closed her eyes. "Yes. Earth will hear, and they will answer." The ship groaned as another plasma barrage ripped into its engines. Half the hospital vessel went dark, spinning in silence. Hundreds were already gone, and still the aliens fired. Far away. In the Galactic Council's amphitheater, news arrived faster than the smoke could clear. A projection filled the chamber, the burning hospital ship, its red crosses glowing faintly against the fire. Alien delegates gasped. Some stood in outrage, others whispered in fear. The Velen ambassador raised his scaled hand. This cannot be. Who would dare break the sacred rule? Who would fire on the helpless? Another alien, with sharp teeth and cold eyes, sneered. It is only humans. They play at mercy, but they are not feared. Who will stop us if their little fleets vanish? But a third, older voice shook as he spoke. You fools. Do you not understand what you have done? You have awakened them. Earth remembers. Earth punishes. The chamber went silent. Every race in the galaxy knew the old stories. Humanity was young compared to the others, but their history was written in blood and fire. Wars they should not have survived, enemies they should never have defeated, and yet they always endured. One delegate whispered, almost afraid to breathe if they rise. If they march again, no one will be safe. On Earth, deep underground. The distress signal reached the command spire. Admiral Mara stood alone in the dim war room as the hologram flickered before her. The hospital ship's burning frame rotated in the air, every explosion frozen in cruel clarity. She did not speak. Her hands tightened into fists until her knuckles went white. Behind her, young officers shifted nervously. Finally, one broke the silence. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Mara's voice was soft, but it cut like steel. Wake the fleet. Across Earth, the planet itself seemed to shudder awake. Gigantic hangar doors opened in the oceans and deserts. From hidden silos, warships rose on thunder and flame, breaking the clouds. Soldiers marched in silence across vast decks, their faces grim and cold. Children stopped playing in the streets to look up at the sky as massive star. Destroyers blocked out the sun. The ground shook with the hum of reactors older than their parents, engines long kept in shadow, now roaring to life in the void. Earth's satellites carried the distress call to every human colony, and everywhere it arrived, the answer was the same. No more mercy. No more waiting. Humanity strikes back. Back at the burning hospital ship, Captain Voss stood on the collapsing bridge. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Her uniform was torn, her face bloodied, but her eyes still burned with fire. She pressed one last button, sending her voice across the stars. To Earth. To anyone who can hear, remember us? The transmission cut as the ship finally broke apart. A silent explosion blooming against the endless night, far across the void. The first human warship engines ignited, glowing like furious suns. A fleet began to rise, and in the shadows of the alien empire that had dared to strike, fear spread like fire. Earth's fleet awakens next. The Great Galactic Council Chamber was a place meant for order. It was built from silver stone and glowing crystals, high above the clouds of the neutral world concordance. Alien banners hung from the walls, each marking a proud civilization. From here, wars were stopped. Peace was maintained, but tonight there was no peace. In the center of the chamber, a massive hologram flickered, the image of humanity's hospital ship burning in space. Red crosses glowed faintly through the fire as alien plasma tore it apart. Screams from the emergency broadcast echoed across the chamber. The sound made even hardened warriors shift uneasily. The delegates shouted at once, voices clashing like thunder. "This is madness," cried the Ilari envoy, her silver feathers trembling. "The rules of war are clear. Medical ships are sacred." The core representative, a hulking brute with jagged horns, only laughed. Sacred to whom? The humans should know better than to parade their weakness across our skies. Gasps filled the chamber. The Ilari envoy turned in fury. Weakness. That ship carried children. Children, the core sneered, grow into soldiers. At the far end of the table, the Zell diplomat, pale and insect-like, tapped his mandibles. Do not act surprised. Humanity believes itself special. Perhaps it is time someone reminded them of their place. A low murmur rippled through the room. The word humanity carried weight. It was a name that made even ancient empires uneasy. From the shadows, the Velen ambassador spoke. His scaled skin shimmered in the light, and his voice carried a quiet warning. You do not understand what you have done. The core scoffed. I understand well. Humans bark like predators, but they bleed like prey. No, the Velen whispered, his eyes narrowing. You have awakened them. And if humanity rises in anger, not one world will escape the fire. Silence fell. For a moment, even the loudest delegates were struck quiet. They all knew the old story tales whispered of how young Earth had crushed impossible enemies, of how human fleets had turned defeats into victories no logic could explain. Humanity was unpredictable, dangerous, relentless. The council leader, an ancient being of light known as the Third Speaker, finally raised its voice. Order. We must speak of facts, not fear. Who has proof of this crime? Which empire fired upon the hospital ship? The hologram changed, showing plasma trails and ship signatures. The chamber buzzed. The ships were traced back to the Drade Combine. A proud and ruthless power in the galaxy, the Drade delegate rose, his metallic armor glinting. His voice was cold and sharp. This is false. Our fleets do not fire on the helpless. The evidence is clear. The Ilari snapped. Your warships struck first. The Drade's eyes flashed. And what if we did? Will you stand in the way of the Combine? Will you bleed for the humans? The council erupted again in shouting. Some races screamed for punishment, others begged for silence. Fear and anger mixed into chaos. Then the chamber froze. The hologram flickered once more, displaying a single message, encrypted and unbreakable. It had come directly from Earth to the Galactic Council. Humanity has heard your silence. You allowed our mercy ship to burn. Know this, Earth is awake. The words pulsed in fire-red letters. Hanging above the chamber like a curse, an alien delegate trembled. What? What does that mean? The Velen ambassador lowered his eyes. It means fleets are moving. It means engines are burning. It means Earth has declared war. Far away, on Earth itself. The order was already in motion. Deep in the oceans, ancient hangar doors opened. Colossal ships rose from beneath the waves, their armored hulls dripping with water as engines ignited. From deserts, entire mountains split apart to reveal hidden launch bays. Titan warships, kept silent for decades, now roared to life. Cities looked to the skies in awe as hundreds of warships blocked the sun. Soldiers, dressed in dark armor marked with the insignia of Earth, marched in formation, faces hard and eyes burning with fury. Civilians raised their fists in silence, their cheers echoing across the streets. For the healers. For the fallen. In orbit, Earth's first armada formed. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of ships locked into place, their engines glowing blue against the black void. At the center of them all was a super dreadnought, larger than any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Its reactor pulsed like a heart of fire. On the command deck of the flagship Indomitable, Admiral Mara Sade stood tall, her face grim. Around her, officers worked with steel determination. One young lieutenant approached. Admiral, the Council is in chaos. Some beg us to wait. Others prepare to fight us. What message shall we send? Mara's voice was calm, but it carried the weight of iron. Send no message. Let the fleet speak for us. Her gaze turned to the hologram of the burning hospital ship. She whispered almost to herself, they thought mercy made us weak. They will learn mercy only makes us stronger. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, chaos turned to dread. Reports poured in. Earth's fleets were leaving orbit. Colonies across human space were arming. Supply lines were active. An alien delegate whispered, his face pale. They are moving faster than we imagined. They were ready for this. The Velen ambassador closed his eyes. Not ready. Always ready. Humanity never sleeps. And then the final report arrived. The human fleet had left Earth's orbit. They were coming. Earth's fleet awakens. The night skies above Earth were no longer calm. From deserts, oceans, mountains, and orbit, colossal hangars opened doors that had been sealed for decades. Dust shook from ancient walls as engines thundered to life. Humanity's hidden war machines, built in silence and waiting for the call, were finally awakening. In the Pacific Ocean, the waves split apart as a giant platform rose from beneath the sea. Slowly, a Leviathan-class warship emerged, dripping with water, its armored hull glowing with blue reactor light. Its sheer size dwarfed the fleets of most alien nations. The crowds gathered on the shores gasped as the ship broke free from the ocean, rising like a beast of legend in the Sahara Desert. Entire dunes shifted as underground silos rumbled open. Smaller but deadly fast-attack ships shot upward, engines blazing white fire. Dust storms swept across the sand, hiding the number of ships as hundreds rose together, their shadows blotting out the moon and above Earth in low orbit. Massive orbital docks released ships long kept under cover. One by one, frigates, cruisers, and dreadnoughts slid into formation, their engines glowing bright against the dark. To the galaxy it would seem impossible. To humans, it was inevitable. On the surface, people filled the streets. Civilians stood shoulder to shoulder, watching the sky ignite with fire trails as the ships left the atmosphere. Children pointed upward, some crying, others cheering. Elders whispered old words, "Never again." From every human city came the same chant, growing louder until it echoed across the world, for the healers. For the fallen. For Earth. Inside the command spire, Admiral Mara Sayed stood before a wall of holograms showing live feeds of the mobilization. Ships launched from every continent. Squadrons of starfighters streaked into the sky like silver arrows. An aide rushed to her side. Admiral, current count, 3,000 warships are now operational. More are still rising from reserves. Mara's dark eyes narrowed. And the super dreadnought? The aide hesitated, then smiled grimly. It's awake. Deep beneath Antarctica, the ice cracked and split apart. A mountain of steel began to rise, glowing lines of energy pulsing along its surface. It was the indomitable Earth's pride and terror, a ship so large its shadow covered kilometers of frozen land. As its engines flared to life, the ice beneath it shattered, sending shockwaves across the frozen wastes. The ship's reactor pulsed like a star, its hull bristling with weapons no other world had ever seen. Entire alien fleets would break at the sight of it. In orbit, the Indomitable slowly joined the growing armada. The fleet shifted formation around it, smaller ships aligning in precise patterns. It was not just war, it was discipline. Unity, fury held in steel. At the same time, across the galaxy, alien observers watched in shock on Velen Prime. Generals stared at their screens, their scaled faces pale. This is not a fleet. This is an empire rising. On core homeworlds, soldiers who had laughed at humanity now trembled. They built this. In silence, the Galactic Council, still in session, received transmission after transmission. Reports screamed of Earth's mobilization, of thousands of ships lifting at once. Alien leaders argued, their voices sharp with fear, they will destroy us all. We must strike first. No, we must surrender. But one alien delegate whispered the words that silenced them all. They are not coming for all of us. They are coming for the guilty. Back aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Marasa stood at the center of the bridge. Her officers waited, tense but ready. Before them, the stars stretched endless and cold. "Admiral," one officer said softly, "where do we strike first?" Mara looked at the hologram of the destroyed hospital ship, its hull torn, its lights fading. Her jaw clenched. "We strike where they believe themselves safe. The Drade Combine must learn what terror feels like." The officer hesitated. "And the council?" "Some beg us to wait. Others prepare to resist us." Mara's voice was like stone. "Let them watch. Let them fear. Let them understand what happens when they allow humanity to bleed." The fleet began to move. Engines ignited in perfect unison, lighting up Earth's orbit like a chain of suns. The warships stretched into formation, rows upon rows of steel, each carrying thousands of humans who had sworn to fight until the last breath. Then, in a single moment, the stars bent. The jump drives activated, pulling the entire armada into the fabric of space itself. Blue light shimmered across the void, swallowing the fleet whole. To those watching from Earth, it was as if their defenders had vanished into the stars, leaving only trails of light. But to the galaxy, it meant something else. Humanity was on the march. In the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. Some shouted that war had begun. Others tried to beg for diplomacy. Yet in every chamber, in every world, in every whispering street of the galaxy, the same words spread like fire. The humans are coming, and deep in alien territory. In the throne room of the Drade Combine, the warlords laughed at the first reports. They dismissed the warnings. They believed no fleet could stand against them. But as the stars shifted, as sensors screamed of incoming mass, their laughter began to fade. The first strike of vengeance. The stars above the Drade Combine home sectors burned calmly. Merchants carried cargo, warships patrolled borders, and citizens walked the great plazas of their cities. To them, it was another ordinary night. But the ordinary was about to end, far out in the black. Humanity's fleet tore through space. The massive armada emerged from its first jump, engines glowing like a storm of suns. Thousands of warships spread into precise formation, their hulls glinting with Earth's insignia. At the center loomed the Indomitable, the super dreadnought whose reactor burned brighter than any star in sight. On the bridge, Admiral Mara Said stood in silence, her hands clasped behind her back. Her officers worked feverishly, scanning alien space, calculating trajectories. "Targets confirmed," a lieutenant said. "Multiple Drade patrols, civilian hubs, military shipyards." Mara's dark eyes hardened. We don't strike the weak. We strike their sword hand. Show them humanity's mercy has limits. Her voice cut through the bridge like a blade. Ready all batteries. Prepare the fleet. At that same moment, in the Drade border system of Vila's Prime, 3 alien patrol cruisers drifted lazily through orbit. Their commanders laughed as they discussed the attack on humanity's hospital ship. They squeal like prey once sneered. And yet they call themselves warriors. Another barked a laugh. Their fleets are nothing. Their courage is nothing. Let them scream to their council. It will not save them. Then the sensors screamed. Alarms shrieked as the screens filled with impossible readings. Thousands of ships were emerging from nowhere, warping into existence all around them. A storm of blue light tore open the night, and out of it came Earth's armada. The Drade commander's laughter froze in his throat. No, this is not possible. The human fleet moved as one. Frigates darted forward, sleek and fast. Destroyers locked into strike formation. Cruisers powered their massive cannons. Fighters launched in swarms, wings of silver fire cutting through the dark. Then the order came. Open fire. The void lit up with fury from the Indomitable alone. A single broadside shredded all 3 alien cruisers in seconds. Plasma beams and kinetic slugs ripped through their shields, tearing ships apart like paper. One exploded instantly, another broke into flaming halves. And the third tried to run only to be swarmed by human fighters, missiles tearing it to shreds. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Across Vila's Prime, civilians looked up at the night sky. The horizon glowed red as human warships descended like meteors. Explosions rolled across the orbiting shipyards, scattering debris into the atmosphere. The sound of thunder reached the cities as pieces of burning metal rained down. Children cried. Soldiers ran. Commanders screamed for reinforcements, but there was no time. Humanity had come too fast, too strong, too merciless. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Mara's voice was calm, almost cold. Transmit to every world within range. The communications officer nodded, activating the fleet-wide broadcast. Across hundreds of systems, alien worlds suddenly filled with the voice of humanity. This is Admiral Mara Saeed of Earth. You fired upon a vessel of mercy. You killed our healers, our children, our civilians. For every innocent life you stole, we will take a fleet. For every drop of blood, we will answer with fire. Remember this: humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. We are coming. In the Galactic Council chamber, the broadcast was played live. Alien leaders stared in silence as the image of Earth's fleet tearing apart. Vila's Prime's defenses filled the great hologram. Some delegates trembled. Others raged. But none could deny what they were seeing. The Ilari envoy whispered, "They are not fighting. They are punishing." The core representative slammed a fist against the table. "They are out of control. They will bring ruin to us all." But the Valan ambassador's voice was heavy with certainty. "No, this is not ruin. This is justice." Back in the Drade Combine throne hall, warlords watched as reports poured in. Whole squadrons annihilated. Shipyards lost. Fleets crushed in minutes. One Drade commander snarled, "It cannot be. Humans cannot wield such power." An advisor whispered, his voice shaking, "They built it in silence. They hid their claws until now." The warlord's eyes burned with rage, but deep inside, fear began to coil. For the first time in centuries, the Combine felt hunted. Meanwhile, humanity's fleet pressed deeper. More systems fell in ours. Alien fleets tried to resist, but against Earth's unity and firepower, they shattered like glass. On one bridge, a Drade captain screamed as his ship's shields collapsed. Before the end, he saw the human flagship looming in the dark, its weapons glowing, its reactor pulsing like a heart of vengeance, and then his world vanished in fire. On the Indomitable, Admiral Mara turned to her officers. "Status: all enemy fleets destroyed, Admiral. Resistance is broken." She nodded once. "Good. Leave survivors. Let them carry stories back to their masters. Her gaze hardened. The Combine will understand. They will learn terror the way we did. In the silence after battle, humanity's fleet regrouped, engines glowing as they prepared for the next strike. Across the galaxy, fear spread faster than light. Entire empires whispered the same words. The humans are not weak. The humans are wrath. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so loud. Voices roared from every corner of the vast amphitheater. Delegates pounded fists, wings, and claws on their tables. Some shouted for war, others begged for peace. The hologram in the center of the chamber showed the burning ruins of Velas Prime, one of the Drade Combine's proud systems, destroyed in hours by Earth's fleet. The air itself seemed heavy with fear. The Alari envoy, feathers quivering, cried out, "Do you not see? Humanity's wrath is real." They struck an entire fleet as if it were nothing. The core representative, horns gleaming, slammed a fist into the table. So what? Are we to bow before these? These upstarts. They are one world, one. The Combine will rally. Together, we can crush them. The insectoid Zell diplomat hissed in frustration. Crush them. You fool. They were prepared for this war. Look at the numbers. Look at the speed. No species could move fleets that fast unless they planned for it. Unless they waited for it. The chamber erupted again, voices overlapping until the leader of the council, the Theron speaker, boomed for silence. The ancient being's glowing form pulsed with agitation. Order. This chamber will have order. The noise slowly died. Delegates leaned forward, their alien faces pale with tension. At the far end, the Velan ambassador rose. His scaled body shimmered as he spoke, his voice low but carrying across the chamber. You are blind if you think humanity is just another rival. They are not playing by our laws, our limits, or our fears. They fight with something older, something far more dangerous. And what is that? Sneered the QOR. The Velan's golden eyes narrowed. Memory, they never forget. Every attack, every insult, every loss, they carve it into their history. And when they rise, they do not rise as a nation. They rise as one species. The chamber fell silent at his words. Even the core hesitated, the weight of fear creeping into his pride. Then a chilling sound filled the hall. Another broadcast. The hologram flickered. The face of Admiral Marasaid appeared, her uniform dark, her eyes cold and unflinching. Behind her, the massive bridge of the Indomitable loomed, lights glowing like a city of steel. Her voice was sharp as a blade. To the council. We are not at war with you yet. We are at war with those who struck our mercy ship. But hear this. If you stand with them, you will burn with them. Earth does not seek conquest. We seek justice. But make no mistake, justice will come. Even if we must march across every star to deliver it. Her image vanished. Chaos exploded again. Delegates shouted over each other. She threatens us all. No, she spares us for now. We must unite against them. Or we must beg for peace before it is too late. The Theron speaker raised its glowing arms. Enough. But the chamber was beyond control. Entire delegations stormed out. Some gathered in corners, whispering plans. The alliance was breaking apart before their eyes. Outside the council chamber, the streets of Concordance boiled with rumor. Alien civilians huddled together, their faces pale. Traitors muttered, the humans destroyed Velas Prime in hours. Soldiers whispered, their fleet is larger than anything we've seen. Children asked their parents in fear, are the humans coming here? And across every world, whispers spread the same phrase. The humans are awake. Back on the Drade Combine homeworld, the warlords raged. One slammed his claws onto the table, denting the steel. Cowards. The council fractures like glass, and still the humans advance. Where are our allies? Another snarled back, gone. They flee from us like prey. Reports filled the room. Lost fleets, destroyed shipyards, captured outposts. each one struck like a blade. The warlords, who had once laughed, now tasted fear. "Humanity is not fighting us," one finally whispered. "They are hunting us." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Mara watched her officers work in silence. Holograms showed systems falling, enemy fleets retreating. "Status?" she asked. "Enemy resistance scattered," came the reply. "But the Council is divided. Some prepare fleets against us. Others send quiet messages of surrender. No one trusts anyone anymore." Mara nodded slowly. "Good. Let them break apart. A divided galaxy cannot unite against us." Her eyes narrowed as she turned to the stars. "But the Combine will not yield easily. They will set a trap." Her aide frowned. "And if they do?" Mara's lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "Then we will spring it." Across the galaxy, fleets moved in secret. Some prepared to resist Earth. Others quietly withdrew their ships, not willing to risk their people. The old balance of power was collapsing. The Council, once a symbol of unity, now stood on the edge of ruin, and at the center of it all, humanity advanced. Not as conquerors, not as victims, but as the storm that would decide the future of every world, the trap in the stars, the shattered alliance. The nebula glowed like a living storm. Vast clouds of purple and gold gas swirled in silence, hiding the stars beyond. Lightning crackled inside the mist, casting eerie shadows across drifting asteroids. It was the perfect place for an ambush, and the Drade. Combine had chosen it well. Inside a hidden fortress at the nebula's edge, Drade commanders gathered around a glowing tactical map. Red icons marked thousands of human ships moving steadily through the void. The warlord in charge bared his teeth. "They are arrogant. They believe themselves unstoppable. We will prove them wrong here." Another commander snarled, his claws clicking against the table. "Our fleets are in position. Every escape route is sealed. When the humans enter the nebula, they will find only death." A third leaned forward, his eyes glowing with cruel hunger. "We will crush them in one blow, and when their fleet is broken, their worlds will follow." They laughed, their voices echoing through the chamber. But in the dark beyond the nebula, Admiral Mara sighed, studied the same map aboard the Indomitable. Her officers were tense. The nebula pulsed before them on the screen, thick with interference. Scanners could not pierce it. Inside, anything could be waiting. "Admiral," one officer said nervously, "this is a perfect ambush zone. We should avoid it." Mara's expression did not change. Her eyes were calm, almost cold. "Of course it's an ambush. That is why we will go straight in." The officer's mouth opened in shock, but Mara cut him off. "They believe themselves clever. They think we are blind. But we know their pattern now. They want us to fear. Instead, we will show them something greater." Her voice lowered, like the rumble of thunder. "We will show them inevitability." The order went out. Earth's fleet advanced into the nebula, engines glowing blue against the swirling gases. The Indomitable led the way, its massive hull cutting through the mist like a blade. Behind it, thousands of ships slipped into the storm, vanishing one by one. On distant worlds, alien eyes watched the live feeds. Fear rippled across the galaxy. Would this be the moment the humans finally fell? Inside the nebula, silence ruled. Static clawed at sensors. Navigation grew difficult. Shadows shifted in the gas clouds, shapes moving like ghosts. Then it began. A flash of plasma tore through the void, slamming into a human cruiser. Alarms blared as explosions rocked the ship. From every direction, Drade warships emerged from the mist, their weapons blazing. Contact. Multiple enemy fleets. Shields failing. "Admiral, we're surrounded." The nebula lit up with fire as alien warships poured from the clouds. The trap had closed. Humanity's fleet was outnumbered, outflanked, pinned in the storm. On the Drade command deck, the warlords roared in triumph. At last, they will break. But aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Mara's voice was calm. "Signal the hidden wings. The officer blinked. Hidden wings? Mara's lips curved into the faintest smile. Execute Operation Eclipse. Suddenly, the nebula shifted. From within the storm itself, massive human warships decloaked, their dark hulls glowing as they powered up weapons. Entire fleets that had remained invisible now revealed themselves in perfect formation. The Drade commanders froze as new red icons filled their screens, human ships surrounding them. What no? This cannot be, one screamed. They knew. Admiral Mara's voice carried through the comms. Cold and sharp, you thought you had trapped us. No, you only walked into ours. The human fleet opened. Fire. Blinding beams cut through the nebula, tearing Drade warships apart. Missiles streaked through the mist, explosions rocking the storm clouds until they glowed red. Fighters swarmed, weaving between enemy cruisers, shredding their engines. The trap turned inside out. Alien commanders screamed as their ships fell one after another. Regroup. Regroup. But there was no regrouping. Every path of escape ended in human fire. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Mara watched the destruction unfold. Her officers were silent, awed by the precision of the ambush. Status, she asked. Enemy fleets collapsing, Admiral. Half destroyed already. The rest scattering. Mara's voice was steady. Do not let them scatter. Drive them to the center. Leave no doubt. In the Galactic Council chamber, the hologram of the battle stunned the delegates. Alien leaders stared with wide eyes as the impossible played out before them. They turned the trap. Into a trap of their own, one whispered. The Ilarai envoy trembled. Do you understand now? This is why humanity cannot be fought like others. They do not think in fear. They think in inevitability. The core representative said nothing. For once, even his pride was silent. In the Drade Combine's throne hall, panic spread. Reports of the ambush poured in. Their fleets were being slaughtered. Their commanders begged for reinforcements, for orders, for hope, but there was no hope. For the first time in centuries. The warlords of the Combine realized they were prey. The nebula burned. When the last Drade warship detonated in a ball of fire, Admiral Mara gave her final order. Transmit to the survivors. A single message was sent across the battlefield. This was your trap. Now it is your grave. Humanity does not fall into snares. We break them. As the fires faded, Earth's fleet emerged from the nebula, engines glowing against the stars. To every world watching, the message was clear. Humanity had not only survived the ambush, they had mastered it, and now the galaxy trembled. Humanity's warning, the nebula still glowed with fire. Wreckage drifted silently, the broken remains of the Drade fleet scattered like ashes in the storm. Where once thousands of alien warships had hidden, only silence remained. And through that silence, Earth's fleet emerged victorious. The Indomitable led the armada, its reactor pulsing like a star, its hull gleaming with the scars of battle. Behind it, row upon row of human warships burned bright against the void. Their formation perfect, their discipline unbroken. The galaxy was watching. Every system with a sensor array, every spy probe. Every open comm channel, all of them carried the same message. Humanity had crushed the trap and turned it into a graveyard. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Mara Saeed stood at the center, silent, her gaze fixed on the stars ahead. Her officers waited, the air thick with tension. They knew what was coming. Open the channel, she said at last. The communications officer nodded. Across the galaxy, countless screens flickered to life. Alien leaders in their halls, soldiers in their barracks. Civilians in their streets all saw the same thing. Admiral Mara, her face cold and calm, standing before the firelit wreckage of the nebula battlefield, her voice carried like thunder to the galaxy. You have seen what happens to those who strike the helpless. You have seen what happens to those who believe humanity is weak. Hear this now. If another human relief ship is fired upon, if another child, healer, or civilian is harmed, your empires will burn. Your fleets will shatter. Your worlds will know the fire you unleashed on us. Her eyes burned into the camera. We are humanity. We are mercy. But we are also vengeance. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The silence afterward was deafening. Across the council chamber, alien delegates sat frozen. Some trembled openly, others glared in fury, but none could speak. The image of Mara's warning hung heavy in the air, like a shadow that could not be shaken. Finally, the Illyri envoy broke the silence, her feathers trembling. She speaks as if she commands the galaxy itself. The core representative slammed his horned fist into the table. No, this is fear-mongering. Humanity cannot dictate to us. But his voice shook as he said it, and the others noticed the Velen ambassador leaned forward, his scales shimmering in the light. Fear-mongering. No, this is reality. They do not bluff. They never bluff. If we test them again, it will not be fleets that fall. It will be worlds. The chamber was quiet once more. Even the proudest voices had no answer. On alien streets, civilians whispered on core colonies. Mothers pulled their children close, whispering the words they had heard. If we harm another human. On Zell worlds, traders whispered to one another, do not cross them. They remember everything, and on the distant stations of the Velen, soldiers stared at their screens and muttered in awe. They warn only once. Back in the Drade Combine's throne hall, panic had replaced arrogance. Reports of the ambush's failure lay scattered across the warlord's table. Entire fleets had vanished. Commanders were gone. Shipyards were burning. One warlord snarled in frustration. This cannot continue. We must unite the galaxy against them. Another shook his head. The galaxy will not unite. They are already breaking apart. No one trusts anyone anymore. Humanity has made them afraid of choosing the wrong side. The room fell silent. Fear, sharp and cold, hung heavy in the air. For the first time in generations, the mighty Combine saw its own end in the shadows. On the Indomitable, Admiral Mara stood with her officers. The fleet sailed on, leaving the shattered nebula behind. An aide spoke softly. Admiral, the council is divided. Some speak of surrender. Others prepare to strike us. The Combine still resists. What shall we do? Mara's gaze was steady, her voice unshaken. Let them argue. Let them fear. Let them wonder when we will come. She looked at the hologram of the galaxy, Kier sectors flickering with fear and uncertainty. Humanity's warning has been spoken. If they are wise, they will listen. If not, she let the words hang in the air like a blade. Then we will teach them. In the Galactic Council Chamber. As the delegates finally began to move, one old Thuran priest whispered words none wanted to hear. They are not saviors. They are not conquerors. They are a storm, and storms do not ask permission. Across the galaxy, every world, every station, every empire carried the same fear, not of invasion, not of occupation, but of retribution, for humanity had spoken once, and once was enough. Judgment of Earth's armada. The galaxy held its breath. For weeks humanity's fleet had struck with precision. Systems burned, traps were broken, fleets shattered. Yet whispers spread of the true mastermind, the one who had ordered the destruction of humanity's hospital ship. The Drade Combine denied it. Their warlords raged, their voices loud. But hidden intelligence painted a different picture. A name rose in every report. A shadow at the center of it all, the Drade Overlord, XR, are single quotes. And now, his fortress had been found. The stronghold loomed above a dying star. A fortress the size of a moon, bristling with weapons. Rings of defense platforms circled it like iron chains. Entire fleets waited in formation, their weapons glowing, their banners raised. The Overlord stood upon his throne, armor gleaming, his voice echoing through the command halls. Let them come. Let the humans see what true power is. Their little fleet will break upon my walls like dust upon stone. His generals roared in approval. His citizens cheered, though fear trembled in their eyes. But far beyond the fortress, the stars shifted. The void rippled as thousands of human ships emerged from jump space. Earth's full armada had arrived. The Indomitable led the charge, its reactor blazing, its hull glowing like a second sun. Around it, cruisers, destroyers, and frigates formed lines as precise as blades. Entire wings of fighters launched in waves, streaking silver through the dark. On every human world, civilians watched the live feed. The moment had come. Judgment was here, on the bridge of the Indomitable. Admiral Mara Saeed stood tall, her eyes locked on the fortress ahead. An officer turned to her, voice tight. "Admiral, their defenses are vast. Hundreds of batteries, thousands of ships. It may take days to break them." Mara's voice was calm. "It will take hours." Her gaze hardened. "And when it is done, there will be no doubt left in this galaxy." She raised her hand. "All ships advance." The void exploded into war. Alien cannons roared, unleashing storms of plasma and missiles. Defense platforms lit up the dark like suns. Waves of Drade warships charged forward, their engines burning red. But humanity's fleet answered in thunder. The Indomitable unleashed a broadside so powerful it shredded 3 defense stations at once. Human cruisers fired precision railguns, each shot punching through enemy shields and tearing ships apart. Swarms of human fighters danced through the battlefield, weaving between plasma blasts, cutting down enemy squadrons and burning trails. The Nebula trap had been cunning, but this was brute strength. Humanity unleashed its full fury. Inside the fortress, the Overlord roared as reports flooded in. Hundreds of our ships destroyed, defense platforms falling. They do not break, they do not slow. The Overlord's claws dug into his throne. Fight harder. Bleed them dry. But his voice shook, and those around him felt the fear spreading. Back aboard the Indomitable. Admiral Mara's gaze was steady. "Target the fortress weapons," she ordered. 12 human. Dreadnoughts powered their massive cannons. Blinding lances of energy ripped through the dark, slamming into the fortress's shields. The entire structure shook. Platforms exploded. Walls cracked. Alien commanders screamed in disbelief. No shield should fall this quickly. But humanity's weapons were not built for balance. They were built for vengeance. The fortress tried to fight. Missiles streaked into human lines. Ships exploded. Lives were lost. Yet the human fleet did not falter. Every loss was answered with fury, every wound repaid with destruction. Hours passed and the fortress weakened. Its fleet scattered, its platforms burned. The Overlord watched in horror as the impossible became inevitable. Finally, the shields fell. Admiral Mara gave her last order. "All ships, fire." The sky lit with fury. Every cannon, every missile, every railgun turned on the fortress. The combined barrage tore through steel and stone, ripping it apart from within. Explosions cascaded across its surface, fire tearing through its core. On the throne, Zarthel's roar of rage turned into a scream of fear as his empire's pride. His empire's heart collapsed into fire. The fortress broke apart. A moon-sized explosion blazing against the dying star. Silence followed. The human fleet hung in the void, victorious. Wreckage drifted around them like ash on the wind. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Mara stood unshaken. Her officers waited, silent, their faces pale with awe. Admiral One whispered, "It is done." Mara nodded slowly. Her gaze turned to the galaxy beyond, where countless worlds had watched the fortress fall. "Transmit one final message," she said, across the galaxy. Every screen flickered once more. The image of Admiral Mara filled the void, her face lit by the glow of fire behind her. To the galaxy. "Let this be known. Humanity does not seek war. But if you strike at our mercy, at our healers, at our children, we will answer. Not with words. Not with treaties. But with fleets, the Drade Combine is no more. Let this be your warning. Do not test us again." Her voice dropped cold and sharp. "Remember this day. Remember who we are." The transmission ended. On alien worlds, civilians shivered. Leaders stayed silent. No one dared speak, and across the stars, one truth spread to every corner of the galaxy. Humanity had risen, and nothing would ever be the same again.